Episode 42. Oh yeah, here we go. Wow. One, two, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Evening Hour Live. Here we go. Cheers. We got a good one tonight. Something new for me. All right. Alrighty, let's move over to the vinyl. Yeah. And there we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got a crowd in here. What's up? I see William, Sean, Eric, my mama, Francis. What's up? William. Howdy. I'm excited for tonight. I learned a lot this last few days about tonight's episode. And I decided upon it because it's the Get Ready for Friday, which I know a bunch of you are really going to like. Now, my mom, who's in here, is always like, tell me when the religious ones are on. I don't want to watch them. But I think she likes watching them because my mom is smart and likes to learn new things. So, I think the idea of it might have shocked her when I told her I was going to do some of these more controversial subjects. And, yeah, this is evening hour. I have a great show tonight. I have a great one on Friday. And then next week, I got a bunch. Here, let me tell you what I'm working on for next week. I'm going to do an episode on Elohim. Anybody know what the word Elohim? You know the word. Well, Elohim is one of the names for God in the Old Testament, and it's plural. Now, there are lots of reasons for that. Amanda, what's up? Come on in. And I'm going to do an episode on it. I find it very fascinating, and some of the ancient Jewish stuff that I've come up with, like in research, was very surprising. So I'm going to do an episode on that. I'm going to do an episode on earwax. I've been saying it. It's coming up. Captain Crunch is in the works. A junk cereal overview. Yeah, and guys, I'm like 4 from hitting 666 subscribers, which means I definitely will probably hit it by Friday. And there's a contest on Friday. Now, I haven't decided the prize yet, but I'm going to write this down now. Contest prize. I have to decide it tomorrow. And I got to decide how I'm going to pick who gets it. It's going to be whoever's in the chat. So if you're here on Friday in the chat, you are going to win. Talon, what's up, buddy? You're going to win a prize. And it's probably going to be really good. Lots. Okay? That's that. Now, what else? Shout out. I got something in the mail today. Look, I haven't designed my camera setup, so if I lean forward, I change colors. Look. It's called in-camera special effects, where it's already going, and I just have to move. Corey, Elizabeth, what's up? Great workout. I just did a yoga online thing with Sharky, Voider Shark, and I feel good. Stretched. I feel yoga'd. What's the good word for after you've done yoga? You feel yogied or yoga'd? Oh, yeah. It's going to be crazy. 666 is in a day. But 1,000, I'm going to do a big thing. I'm going to make a special episode, a special contest. It's not easy. I've been really working hard. So, yeah, let's celebrate. So I got this in the mail. I forgot about the person sent me a, hey, what's your address on Instagram? By the way, if this ever drops, go to Instagram. Well, first try it like in 5 minutes. This channel, if it ever cuts out or it gets stuck, because that means I have to reboot it. If it is gone, go to Instagram, Cardone Magic. So this guy here sent me out of nowhere, Reverend Joey, and his company is called Get Haunted Industries. So if you're on Instagram, go find Get Haunted Industries. If you like role-playing games and weird stuff, look at this. Look what he did. Anybody know what a chick track is? So chick tracks were these little religious books you'd see at phone booths and, you know, around town. And I loved them because I thought they were pretty funny. They're little comic books, and not only were they interesting coming from a non-Christian point of view, the subjects were crazy. They did one on Dungeons and Dragons. They did how bad that it's bad for you. They did one on heavy metal, all the things that draw you to the dark side, which they kind of do. I admit it. Look at this. He did one. So Darkest Dungeon is the one on Dungeons and Dragons. He made one on called Darkest Dice. And you know what it is? Let me get the camera to focus. It's a version of Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing games. It's the entire rulebook for coming up with a simplified character system. Using the open game license. So Dungeons and Dragons has some open game license where you can use like an old school version, which is what Dungeon Crawl Classics is. So thank you, Get Haunted Industries. This is great. I'm a fan. I like your work. I'm going to go check out more. Thank you. Mark Sharky. Yay. Come on in. All right. We got a good crowd in here already. I got a nice group. We are going to hit this on the head. I'm excited about this tonight. I'm a little nervous because when I do these subjects that are new to me, it's a lot in my head to organize in a very short time. But tonight's episode, my friends, Gnostics and Judas, episode 42. Anybody out there know what Gnosticism is? Well, let's just start with this. Before we get to, well, let's talk about that. Gnosticism. Well, first of all, the word Gnostic, or if you're agnostic as a religiosity word, Gnosticism means knowledge. That's all it means, Gnosticism. So if you're agnostic, it means you're without knowledge. It doesn't mean you know. It doesn't mean you believe anything. It just means you don't have knowledge of such. Are there unicorns? I don't know. Do you believe there are unicorns? No. That's an atheist agnostic. Okay? So, for anybody that's new to this channel, and I keep leaning because my monitor is a little wobbly. All right, there we go. If you're new to this channel, I always tell people, you have to understand, I'm coming from an atheist agnostic point of view. I don't believe there are deities floating in the sky doing things for people. Helping, harming, giving people land. I don't buy into that. I've never seen any evidence for me to believe in that. If somebody has it, show me. I'm very curious. So I'm coming from that angle. So what is Gnosticism? Well, for years I didn't know what it was, and then I found out it's another version of Christianity of sorts. Different groups that came from, so let's just say there's the story of Jesus, whether it happened because there's a real guy or because it was made up. At any point, or at any rate, it happened. Let's say this thing happened, the genesis of the story. From that story, it branched out. Different people took different parts of the story and did different teachings, and it grew like kind of the same way animals evolve. It's like a tree. It goes There's little pieces go this way, and some things die, and some things grow. Maybe one sect of the Christian movement or idea just died, and one grew. So eventually, those little trees of Christendom had little groups of people scattered around doing way different things, actually, but using the Christ guy as the model. Eventually, Constantine, Holy Roman Emperor Constantine, had the vision. And the vision was, under this symbol I will conquer, the cross. As a kid, I always thought it was funny. His vision wasn't, under this symbol there will be world peace. No, that's not what he said. William, that's a good one. I'll read that in a second. So, Constantine was like, all right, you guys, you're going to take what we know of this Christian thing and make it into something. And there are, it's not one book. People think the Bible's a book. No. It's many fragments jammed together into a book and poorly edited, if you ask me. The Old Testament and the New. There's some things that did not even need to be, like for storytelling purposes, it's kind of a mess. So Constantine was like, you make it this way because we're going to use it for these things. And so the Council of Nicaea, if you're Catholic, is where they sat down and made what we call the Bible. And on Friday, Behind the Devil's Curtain, episode 9, it's called Holy Hoax. Was the Big J a real dude? It's a very controversial subject. Most scholars would say he's a real guy. They don't think he had real powers or he's a deity, but they'll say he was probably a healer, running around Jerusalem at the time. I've, in my studies, found lots of things that point the other direction. So that's what Friday's about. So I thought tonight I'd do a get ready on the Gnostic Gospels. One of them, the Gospel of Judas. So let's talk about that. Before we get to the Gospel of Judas, and I know some of you probably know what it is. Somebody got their message retracted, but that's Mark. What's up? So my computer in here does edit things for me. So sorry about that. I think it's only set to edit bad words, just because I listen. On the note of bad words, if you know me personally, I use them a lot. If there's children present I don't know, I probably won't use bad words. If you see me perform, you probably won't see me use bad words. But occasionally, So that's why I have it set there. Sorry about that. So what's the story of Judas? Well, I mean, as a kid, I was told Judas was a traitor. He sold out Jesus. Then he felt guilty. Then he hung himself. And he burns in hell. When I got a little older, I saw Jesus Christ Superstar, and it showed him partying at the end. Like, he dies, and then he's like at a party. Jesus Christ Superstar. He sings the song at the end. All right. Well, let's talk about this. In the New Testament, the Gospel of Mark, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Mark is the first gospel they know of. It's the first one written. It should be Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, but for some reason it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Let's see here. It had a blood type. I wonder what blood type. In the Gospel of Mark, it doesn't mention the motive for Judas's betrayal. But it does predict it. Jesus does predict it in that story at the Last Supper, I believe. Yeah. No, not at the Last Supper. At one of the major bits where they're sitting at the table. He kind of predicts it. That's in there, but it does not say why. I think that's kind of important. In the Gospel of Matthew, it says he did it for 30 silver pieces. In the Gospel of Luke and John, it suggests he did it because he was possessed by demons. Okay. Oh, there you go. Yes. Well, that's one theory, yeah. Or, one of the theories is Mark was written And if you take Mark and look at Matthew, it's almost the same book. We're going to talk about that on Friday a lot. It's just got added details. And in Acts, it quotes Peter saying Judas used money to buy a field, and they called it the field of blood because the land was bought on Jesus' head, basically. And that he fell headlong, and he burst and his bowels gushed out. I never heard of that, did you? That's new to me. That's in there. So these are the stories that are in the Bible that are taught all around the world. Yeah, familiar stories. People know these stories. So now we go to the Gospel of Judas. Now, this is an interesting gospel. First of all, well, they read about it in only a few sources. So a couple old school sources mentioned it. They did mention it was also looked down upon. And for instance, I think the first mention here is Irenaeus of Lyons, 180 AD. He mentions the story's fictitious. And his book was called Adversus Heresias. So like heresy something. Well, okay, so that's one of the mentions of it, right? So check this out. They found it in Egypt, a leather-bound... Wait, where did I write this down? I wrote down some really shocking details here. Here we go. They found a book in Egypt, I think in the 70s. It's a leather-bound Coptic papyrus. They radio dated it at 220 to 340 AD. Oh yeah, Matthew says lots of dead people rose from the ground when Jesus died. Yeah, people don't know about that either. People also don't know the pig story, the bald man getting killed by the bear story. I can go on. I mean, there's so many weird Bible stories people forgot about. The Witch of Endor and as a ventriloquist? Huh? I mean, literally, there's so many wacky Bible stories. This is a book, a real book. It was 31 leaves when they found it. And it was in a cave. And it got sold around in what they call the gray market. Which is like, not the black market, but not like... I guess it's still looked down upon because it's not regulated or anywhere. So imagine discovering this ancient thing in Egypt, and then it gets sold around a bit, and eventually, in 1984, somebody bought it, and it got smuggled to the USA and stored in Long Island. When I read that, I was like, what? What? Long Island? Why would you bring it to Long Island? Well, whoever brought it there didn't do a good job because they put it somewhere where the humidity ruined it. And it went from over the years of having it, it went from 31 leaves to 13. And it fell apart. If you Google what it looked like, I didn't even bother. It just looks like a papyrus, and it's not in good shape, a lot of these things. It sat in there for 16 years. It was like 1,000 pieces of fragments at this point because people had looked through it and done a little bit of, I think, translating it. And it's written in a Coptic language. Now, here's where it gets funny. Nat Geo, yes, National Geographic, they fronted the money to actually release it and do the research on it. And in 2007, I think they released the book. They did like a whole series. They did a TV show and a book. And they made a big deal about it, and most people didn't pay attention. If you are a Christian, if you're a Christian and you read it, most of it won't make any sense, which I'm going to read a lot tonight. And why? Why bother? I mean, if I'm a Christian, I would want to know everything there was to know about Jesus, even stuff written about him by critics. But from thousands of years ago, from the time that the New Testament was put together, I would want to know what this is. Now, one thing to understand about this is people think that Gnosticism or these other versions of Christians was a thing. Like they were like, no, they're the blah, 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 blah Christians and we're the Gnostic Christians. No, it wasn't like that. Gnosticism was a term used to describe it after the fact. After theologians and historians were like, all right, look at this. There are these people that believe that. We're going to call these the Gnostics. And the reason why is because the basis of it all is based on knowledge, not faith. Big difference. For me, this is a big wow, okay? If there's anything in here that ain't making sense or you have something to add, please. This is a live show, and I have a chat in here. And I know a lot of you either know a lot about this or have questions. Just ask. And if it's something I don't know about, we'll look it up. I'll do a follow-up on it, okay? I've just learned about a lot of this Gnostic stuff recently. Even though it was around, I didn't focus on it. So this book contained, this leather-bound papyri thing, a letter to Peter from Philip, the first Apocalypse of James, the book of Allogenes, and the Gospel of Judas, which I'm going to focus on tonight. Kahitic Coptic was the language. And it's a 3rd century copy of a 2nd century text. So they think it was actually put down, the first ideas of this in the 2nd century, and the copy we have is 100 years after that. Which means it was written down, the story, about 150 years of the Big J, which is a long time of playing, what do you call it? The phone game. 150 years. One of the things I realized when I started doing my research on biblical stuff is this. People fail to realize this notion. They'll say that the Bible is God's word. The Quran is there for guided by these gods, right? And when you actually sit and look at what's going on here, it just can't be. I'm going to pause there. I could go on just on that. They're copies of copies of copies of copies. So anytime a scribe, which is a really hard job with a candle writing, would come to a mistake or something they didn't know what it meant, they fixed it. They had to. It was either them or nobody else. They were a literal printer, publisher, writing thick things, So 150 years of copies of storytelling, things change. Certain details might not, but lots of little sideline things might change, okay? Okay. And here's the thing. This Judas story is so different than anything you have ever heard before if you're a Christian or if you know what the Christian story is. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what this book reads like. Because, folks, it is unlike anything you are ever going to experience. For instance, hold on a second here. I have a few things I need to read. And again, if you have questions, please. All right, here we go. Check this out. This is mind-blowing. I'm going to read from the actual translation. I'm going to read it. Then Judas said to Jesus. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me wait for that. So the first story in the book is Jesus laughing at the disciples, which is way out of character. And they're like, "Why are you laughing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not laughing at you." He's like, "You're basically never going to understand what I'm doing." And he refers to the God that the disciples worship as your God. He doesn't say it's his father. Jesus does not say God is his father in this story. He actually says, Judas steps up and goes, "Teacher, You're not the son of our God? And Jesus' response in this text, mind you, listen to this. Truly I tell you, no generation will know me from the people who are among you. Meaning they're not going to learn anything about me from you guys. That's different. That's really different. And the disciples get angry and confused. They're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, look, they all say that they went to bed and had a vision. And the vision, listen to this. Where did I write this one down? They basically say that their vision is, hold on. I have to read this. This is out of control. I took really thick notes on this. I can't find it. No. Oh, here we go. Yes. No. Oh, yeah, no. Oh, my God, am I missing it? I'm missing my pages. Well, anywho, here's the vision he had. They said we had a vision and that God, that there were people getting sacrificed. Wait, where did I, God, this is going to drive me nuts if I don't find this. Oh, here it is. Adam and Eve, created sackless. Hold on. I feel terrible that I'm stalling here. Oh, here, we'll just read this now. Here it is. Then Judas said to Jesus, "What will those do who have been baptized in your name?" And Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, this baptism which they've received in my name will destroy the whole generation of the earthly Adam. Tomorrow they'll torture the one who bears me. Truly I say to you, no hand of a mortal human will fall upon me. Truly I say unto you, Judas, those who offer sacrifices to Sacklas, we'll get to him, blank, because there's missing stuff here, Sacklas, everything that's evil, but you'll do more than all of them because you'll sacrifice the human who bears me." Now we'll talk about this in a second. Immediately, there was a disturbance among the Jews. Their high priest grumbled because he had gone into the guest room to pray, but some scribes were there watching closely so they could arrest him during his prayer because they were afraid of the people, since they all regarded him as a prophet. And they approached Judas and said to him, "What are you doing here? Aren't you Jesus' disciple?" And he answered to them as they wished. Then Judas received some money and handed him over to them. So that's where he gets bought out. And we'll talk about why in a second. So the people had, his disciples had a vision that they were in a temple. And at the temple, there were priests, and the people there were sacrificing babies, sacrificing animals, and sacrificing things. And humans too. And they were like, yeah, and you know, that was their vision. And Judas, this is where it gets really neat. Judas is like, I also had a vision. And he said, I saw something different. I know who you are and whence you came, and you have come from the immortal realm of Barbelo. So Barbelo, Sacklas, these are names most people never heard of. And he who sent you, I am not worthy to proclaim his name. Now let's talk about what that means. Woo! Okay, here's what the Gnostics believed. And this is part of it. Okay, hold on. This is like crazy heady. I lost my notes today, which is not cool because I took a lot of notes. Hold on, let me just make sure it didn't get shuffled amongst other notes. The rule is use a stapler. I do use a stapler, but I didn't use a stapler for this. So imagine this. I'm going to do this from memory now because I still get this. Here's what the Gnostic story is. And this is why this is like shocking. Jesus is basically saying the God of the earth is Saklas. Okay? And there's another God that he's associated with that's above him. It's another God of like the actual creator. And he created these lesser gods. And those lesser gods also created gods. And Barbelo, so when he says you're from the realm of Barbelo, that's what Jesus says that's what Judas says to Jesus. He goes, I had a vision and I know where you came from. You're from where Barbelo is from. Now Barbelo is one of the gods that the main god created, and it's considered the first one that this god made. And Jesus is part of that upper god, not the one of the earth. And he actually says that sacrificing that you saw in your vision, which is what's in the Old Testament, they sacrifice lots of animals because it says God likes it. It literally says in the Old Testament, God likes the smell of burning bulls. And he kind of teases Abraham, which you watched that episode I did. Jesus is like, that God's not cool. He is not cool. The God of the earth is wrong, and that God of the earth, Saklas, made Adam and Eve. And he said not everybody is going to understand what I'm saying. Even there are angels that don't know what Jesus was saying. They'll never get it. And so Judas kind of had an idea about it. So Judas was on the like, wow, I might be one of these guys that gets it. So stop and process this. This story is radically different than anything in the Old Testament. It implies it's not about faith. You just don't believe in these things. No, you have to have secret knowledge. It's a secret. It's a mystery. And this is like during the time of Judaism first starting, they were the mystery religions, which we're going to talk about on Friday. And out of these mystery religions, it's a kind of a new thing. It was a new thing. There was a secret story to be learned. You had to learn about this thing for it to transcend you, right? And when I heard this stuff, I was like, what? Barbalos and what's the other guy? What's the other god? Barbelo was one of the gods. Saklas has many. The other thing is they all have lots of names, which is why this is hard to learn. Yeah, not this. No, not this. Not this. Angered and confused. Yeah, Barbelo. The land of Barbelo, which is this god. Oh yeah, so they were called archons. That word archon's cool. I learned it from role-playing games. Some of these messages keep getting deleted. I wish I knew what you're saying now. I hate that there's a filter on here. If it's a swear word, it'll get deleted. Sorry. Anywho, does anybody have any thoughts on this? What's this say? Okay. So Jesus, in the story, calls Judas a 13th demon. Piccolo. Yeah, there was a bunch of these gods. I mean, there's like mounds of these lists of these gods. So he says he's the 13th demon. And what does that mean? Well, some of the scholars were like, oh, no, it doesn't mean demon. It means daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N, which is the same word as demon. And sometimes it means spirit, and sometimes it means demon. Those are very different words in our language, so it's kind of hard to decide which is which. But when Jesus calls Judas, oh, you're the 13th demon, it says that might be because Saklas was in the 13th realm. So he's referring to him as somebody who's part of that Saklas team. He's like, you're just one of the normies. Right? It makes sense. It makes sense. He's like, you're one of the normies. You're never going to get it. And Judas is like, no, I'm going to get it, right? Or I think I got it. And the other disciples, he's like, they're idiots. They don't know what's going on. He literally laughs at them in the story. Now, him laughing at them is in other Gospels. I think in the Gospel of Thomas it's mentioned too. I'm going to do a show on that one. I don't know much about Gospel of Thomas. I know a little bit, but not much. Why? Why was this swept under the rug? Why was this version of Christianity they got rid of it? Anybody know? I mean, okay, here's what I thought. And I believe it was probably looked down upon kind of early on. So let's just imagine the Big J is a real guy. Or, okay, let's just say there was somebody who claimed to have met him and he taught a bunch of people and then they went and taught a bunch of people. We know that people claim to be students and descendants from the disciples of sorts. Like, oh, I learned from this guy and I learned from this guy. It's like martial arts schools stemming. If there's all these martial arts schools out there with similar stories telling about their great teacher that came from the apostles, and there's this other story out and about, you want it out. You're like, bye, right? You're like, get rid of that. That's not good. The other thing about this is it implies that following Jesus in this story does require some sort of insight and knowledge, or you're just born with this knowledge of some sort. Like, it's not just like a faith thing. It's very different. So it's a little harder, you know? Yeah, it didn't fit the narrative of control, Ashworth says. Correct. It fits the other narrative, which is the narrative of learning, the narrative of life has got more than meets the eye. And even though you're following the good guy, maybe he's not. And the reason why this story means so much to me is that I have a very early memory, and my mom's watching. I don't know if you remember this, Fran, but I asked you on the back deck of our house. I actually remember this. You probably don't. I do. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. If you go out of our old house to the right, there was a picnic table in the corner of the deck. And I remember sitting out there saying to my mama, how do we all know that the devil isn't telling the truth and the guy in the Bible's lying, the God part? And she got mad. And I know why you got mad, Mom, because you never thought of it. No one ever thinks of that, right? It's such a, what are you talking about? It's like, how do you know that Superman actually isn't a murderous creep? That the story got changed, and Lex Luthor is actually the benevolent leader, or should be. Like, you'd be like, what book are you reading? Right? That's kind of what this seems like when you start talking about it with people. They're like, what are you talking about? Sackloss? And what's the other guy? Here, I'm going to look up the other one. Oh, here, check this out. There's so many of these names. Here it is. Rowan Williams, the Archbishop of Canterbury, strongly denied the historical credibility of the gospel. It says it was late, written late, and it simply parallels a large number of quite well-known works from more eccentric fringes from early century church. And he said the book's publicity derives from a desire for conspiracy theorists. I don't know about that. I don't know. I really, what does that mean? I mean, we don't know. We don't know. A lot of this we'll never know the deep answer of, but we can get close. It says, Jesus is able to teach Judas the true meaning of his life, ministry, and death. Mankind can be divided into two races or groups. Those who are furnished with the immortal soul, like Judas, can come to know the God within and enter the imperishable realm when they die. Those who belong to the same generation of the other 11 disciples cannot enter the realm of God and will die both spiritually and physically. Okay? As practices that are intertwined with the physical world, animal sacrifice, communion, ceremony, ceremonies involving cannibalism, the consumption of Jesus' flesh and blood are condemned. The other Gospels say that Jesus had to die in order to atone for the sins of humanity. The author of Judas expresses the view that this sort of substitutionary justice pleases the lower gods and angels, and the true God is gracious and thus does not demand any sacrifice. Wow. Okay. We're going to talk about this probably for the rest of the episode. My whole life, I've always tried to look at old stories, historical, mythological stories, like biblical stories, and find out what really was intended, what really it is. And I never, as a little kid, could figure out why the God of the Old Testament was such a jerk. Terrible. I am a vain God. Thou shalt have other gods before me. He's literally very vain and very I need you to worship me. I just can't imagine a deity that powerful demanding somebody worship him. And I could never, ever, ever understand the blood magic part of God. And these stories, they sound so archaic. Okay, so you could say it was part of the times. That's what they did a long time ago. Well, if that's what they did a long time ago, it proves the story of God isn't real then. Because then God's trendy. He's just going along with it. Just slavery was around and that was the economy and God just went along with it and gave him kind of rules to sort it out. No. I can't, my brain can't accept that as a reality. So this story of Sackloss and all of this crazy stuff, when I first heard it, it started to unlock little things in my head. I was like, wow, okay, it makes sense. The God of the Old Testament is like a little child. He really is. He's like a whining little kid, or a little rich kid. He's like a little whining rich kid. When he doesn't get his way, he throws a tantrum that's so extraordinary that the problem is so bad that even God feels bad he did it. That sounds a little bit like a rich guy who doesn't know what he's doing. He's just drunk on everything, like life and spending money, and he can create anything he wants, and blah, 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 and he makes this, and he makes humanity, and then they mess up, and he throws a fit, right? And then he has to fix the problem, so he sends Jesus to die, again, blood magic, open the gates of heaven via blood, literal blood, not sort of blood, literal blood, suffering and blood. I, as a kid, never could. And people, the rebuttal to that from a Christian is, how are you to know God's will or mind? Well, I don't. But I do know that I've been told, I have more compassionate things in my heart than I read the God has in the Old Testament. It's in there. My morality I find a little better than the God of the Old Testament, and in the New Testament for that matter. But I just don't, it never made sense of why the sacrifice. Why does it say God likes the smelling of burning bulls? And then people were used to just killing animals, letting that blood come out. It was literally magic. Incantations and blood magic. Now I know. If you use this story if you plug it in, everything makes sense of why God behaves this way. He is a lesser deity in the story. He is not the main guy. And Jesus, being the cool superhero guy in the story, he's like, look, man, I am the key to the one above this guy. It kind of makes sense. it's a great way to tie up the loose ends. It's like a big surprise. It's, wow. There it is. There's the actual answer. He's not the God. Yeah, Fallon, have you ever read about this Gnostic stuff? I'm curious. There's a lot of books on it. It does get lumped into the occult stuff at this point. I just think it's funny that some of these books were not included for obvious reasons. How would you include the Book of Judas in what we call I call a Holy Bible, or a Bible, because Bible means book. Rick Sherman and I are always joking about that. Yeah, but it's funny that somebody had this idea back in 180 AD to write down this story about the Judas story, saying that this blood sacrifice stuff's no good, that everybody's on a wrong path. Like, Jesus is literally saying, everything I'm telling you guys, none of this is going to get out past you guys because you guys have the wrong message. Now, here's the question. In this story, here's the mystery. Why does Judas sell out Jesus? I couldn't find an answer. I looked around. Some people say that he did it, and when he died, he went straight to the 13th realm. And the question is, was that good or bad? No one has an answer to this. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what some of this is. I know about John D, but the Abramelin operation, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to look. That sounds like something I should know about. These stories are really old, and they've been around for a long time, and they get passed around, and there are reasons why some go, and there are reasons why some die, and it is very true. The victor gets to write history. The guy who didn't win, he's going to have another story to tell, which is why I think the Old Testament is janky, because I think what the Old Testament is a story written by somebody who lost something, which would be the ancient Israelites. It doesn't, like the Exodus story, they know didn't happen. It did not happen. Anybody watching this that disagrees with me, just Google Exodus never happened, and you're going to be shocked at the evidence, like the amount of stuff now. Luke, what's up? Oh yeah, you're going to love this when you replay it, because this is meaty. And I'm actually wrapping it up. But Friday is going to be also very meaty. And you should also watch the rerun of that. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm almost at 666 subscribers. My gods. Am I there yet? Let's see. I'm like 663, 662. I'm at 662. So whoever's watching, hit that subscribe button and notify. If you don't hit notify, it's worthless at this point. I love talking Bible stories, and I love opening my head up and trying to look at the whole thing as a giant movement. It's funny that I can talk about this, and I don't actually have to worry about a firebomb or something on just this story. But if you go into the Islam stuff, literally you can get firebombed for just talking about this stuff. Okay. So why did Judas betray Jesus in the Gospel of Judas? Well, I would guess it's prophesized to have happened. So either he's like, look, this has to happen. You got to turn me in. Or I don't know. There's not a lot of answers. It's a mystery. We can guess. Maybe we'll find more scrolls later. I don't know. Think about how many scrolls are out there floating around we don't know about. Okay. Ashworth. It's. I'm going to read his quote and Fallon's quote. Apocrypha. There's some apocrypha that says Jesus told Judas to betray him. Even Peter betrayed Jesus to some degree. Ashworth says it's not, this isn't built off of monotheistic ideology. That's still, I need my glasses. Look at me moving back. That there's still a three being, his blood sacrifice needs to be redeemed. It's all gross and perverted and false. Jesus would have told him to. It's the only way. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. He's like, yo, turn me in. And Judas is like, are you sure? And he's like, trust me, I got this. I mean, that would be it in a story setting. As soon as you take out the fact that none of this ever happened, maybe, it's even more weirder. It's like, yeah, there wasn't even a guy named Jesus at this point, which is what my show is on Friday. If you're coming on Friday, get ready. It's going to be fun. I encourage people to do their own research. I encourage people to ask questions about everything and look up your own info. I claim no authority here. I am a student. You're watching a student learn. I mean, I've been studying this stuff my whole life. I do know some things. I have done a lot of I've listened to thousands of hours of debating on some of these subjects, and I've learned a lot, but I'm never done learning, and I am a student forever. So when somebody recommends something for me, I definitely look it up. And I encourage you to also. And I know, hold on. I haven't yawned on camera in a long time. This has to be the yawn button. That's the actual model that I use in my posters. See? And this is the potion. My yawn camera. The Big J. Well, the Big J is coming on Friday, and I'm going to do a show on the historicity of Jesus. Most historians think Moses wasn't real. Most historians think Exodus never happened. Most historians think the Abraham story is mythology. Most historians think Jesus most likely was a real guy. And the stories are based off of some dude named Jesus, who was a healer of sorts. I found some stuff that says the opposite, and I'm going to present it on Friday. I've been doing a lot of research. Hold on. That's now the new yawn cam. I'm doing a lot of research, and I'm starting to lean on one side. Mark says, Okay, Mark says there's some good Catholic apologists that make some good points. Okay, if you can find where those points are, Mark, send me a link or on the show, bring it up. There are some good apologetics, a couple. The one on Jesus that I thought was funny, I'll give you right now. One of the doctor... Ooh, shit. I've triggered the yawn. One of the doctors calls it the Clark Kent principle. He's like, if Jesus was a real guy and he didn't really do much, then no one would really write about him. There were 1 million faith healers in Jerusalem at the time. Okay, the Gospel of St. Thomas. That's the one I don't know as much about. I'm going to look him up. And now, here's the funny thing. I actually wrote a song about Judas and Thomas. And it's called Judas and Thomas, and it's by the band Opulence. That's the band I put out a record last year with. So if you look up Opulence, Judas, and Thomas, you'll find it on all the music platforms. Fallon says, Resla Aslan. Yes, I saw a Resla Aslan debate where he got kind of taken apart on some of these things, but I'm gonna look this one up now. John the Baptist was second runner-up to Jesus, but he was too educated. Okay, interesting. The yawn cam. They do that when you watch some of these shows. They'll go, coming up. Well, okay, monotheism is funny. Because most monotheistic movements became polytheistic. Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism. Why does Buddhism have a billion weird gods and realms? It's so funny. I love how people will take an atheistic thing and make it theistic. I always thought that was weird. How about, even Taoism? If you go to a Taoist temple in Taiwan, when I went to Taiwan, and this is what I'm going to round it off with, I was so excited to go to the temples. I'm a religious nut. I love studying religion and mythology my whole life. And I knew in Taiwan they were going to have Buddhist temples, Taoist temples, and Confucius temples. And I tried to guess what they were going to be like. I was like, the Taoist temple is going to be an empty room. The Confucius temple is going to be lots of text that you can read. And the Buddha one will be like what I've seen before, which is not much going on, but a big bell, somewhere to throw money for good luck, and a bunch of monks walking around. And it'll be big. So I get to the Buddhist temple in Taiwan, and most of them were like that. I guessed it, right? But people that I met were like, "Are you Buddhist?" And I would be like, "No." And they'd be like, "You will be in a future life. Don't worry. I'll meditate for you." And I'm like, "Wait, that sounds like the Christians where I'm from." It's the same mindset. So then I finally got to go to a Taoist temple in Tainan. Yeah, it was in Tainan, Taiwan. And I heard it was a really cool one because when you walk in, okay, so it's Taoism. Anybody know what Taoism is? Very amazing, simple stuff. I like Taoism because of the empty principle. Like, what makes a cup empty? What makes a cup useful is that it's empty. That principle of being empty so that you can be filled with wisdom. I like that, and I agree with it. I get to the Taoist temple, and there are two guys. It's basically built for two dudes, two generals. And they're both giant things like these. They look paper mache, but they weren't. And they have their tongues hanging out. They look really scary. Well, the story is it's a temple built to commemorate a general who was supposed to meet another general by a river. And the river flooded. And while the general was there waiting, he drowned. So the other general showed up and was like, "Oh my God, he drowned? Well, we were supposed to meet." So he killed himself. He hung himself on a tree so they can meet in the afterlife. So they built a whole temple for this. And the walls were made of stone with depictions of hell. And there were people with tape recorders recording people talking because there's ghosts that come through your voice. I didn't understand it. I was like, this is Taoism? Wow. This is crazy. Not what I thought. It's not Taoism. It became a theistic thing. Finally, I get to the Confucius temple, and I walk in, and it's an empty room with one thing written. I was like, this is cool. It was like one of his sayings. And in hindsight, my favorite temple was the Confucius temple. Any thoughts before I pull the plug on Wednesday night and start working on Friday? I love this stuff. It just makes me... It's a way to juice around mythology and reality. I love it. Someone said, religion is great. Its followers, not so much. Well, here's the thing about the word religion. I don't like the word religion necessarily. Well, okay. Sam Harris came up with this analogy. I always thought it was really cool. Sam Harris, the meditation teacher, philosopher, neuroscientist guy. He said the word religion is like the word sports. In sports, you have badminton and you have MMA. And they are they are so different, it's shocking. They are so different in all aspects. And because of that, they have very different results of how their followers are. So if you're an extremist Jain follower, Jain is a sect of Hinduism, the worst you could ever do is starve to death because it's a pacifistic religion based on hurting nothing alive. So they even walk with brooms so they don't step on bugs, and they wear masks so they don't breathe in bugs. They don't want to kill anything. you have that. So if you're an extremist of that religion and you're following the religion all the way, you might starve to death because you don't want to eat anything. If you're an extremist Christian, Jew, or Muslim, and you follow the book to the T, trouble, folks. Some problems. Big problems. Don't do that. Don't follow the rules, folks. So religion, again, it depends which one and how, and it's a very large, broad subject. There are atheistic religions, and there are theistic religions, too. Buddhism is technically an atheistic, it's a atheistic ideology, I would say. Same with Taoism and Confucianism. Hinduism is not, but yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a meaty subject, folks. What an important subject. We base so many things off of these movements. I mean, our calendar is literally based on Jesus's life. And so I really like to know what it is. I'm also very interested in the difference between fact and truth. Because we'll never always know the truth of anything. I don't think so. And fact isn't truth. Think about that for a second. As soon as you write something down and publish it, it's a fact. Is it the truth? Maybe not. Probably not. But it's now a fact. You can go, hey, says here, right? That's what's going on. That's why the internet's a mess. That's why we have fact checkers now and truth finders now. I don't like this. I don't believe in fact. I don't think there are facts. It's really hard to show real hard facts. We should do an episode where we show like things that are literally taken as fact that are not. There's so many. All right. Well, I mean, folks, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm working my butt off, making this as fun as possible, giving you content that you not only will like hearing about, but I really want you to go do your own research. Look it up. I hope I'm spawning you guys to go look up these gods. I wanted to figure, there's one name of one of the gods that I wrote down that's making me mad that I don't have his name. Saklas. Hold on. Saklas. God. Hold on. Saklas. What the heck? You don't know how hard it is to find this stuff. Saklas, God. Hold on. I'm Googling it and it's not coming up, and I Googled it today. Oh yeah, Demirge. All right, so here are the names. Okay, Mythos, the seven heavens, the angels. My gosh, it's so complex. All right, here's the name of the god of the earth. The name that a lot of people use. Yaldabaoth. Google this. Yaldabaoth. 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 Look this up. This is part of our history. Folks, I had a good time tonight. Did you have a good time? I love doing this. It makes my head filled with fun stuff. It gives me something to look up. And I hope you guys do the same. Thank you, every single one of you, for coming in here. I got a lot of supporters. We're getting close to 666. And I'm getting closer to 1,000. I've got donors that donate to this show. If you donate, you have no idea how much it means to me. You've paid for my camera, my lights, my microphone. And anytime there's money that comes in here, it goes right into the show. Once I get into when I'm starting to be monetized, I will then start using it for some little trips that I have planned where you're not going to believe it. Crazy stuff. And soon I'm going to start doing interviews on this channel. So here we go. Friday night. Don't miss it, folks. I'm going to show the trailer for Behind the Devil's Curtain, episode 9, and right after the outro. And I'll see you on Friday. Get your popcorn, get your drinks. I always wear black and a nice little outfit when I do my Behind the Devil's Curtain. The tone of that show is definitely different, and I like it. And I hope you guys do too. So my name is Cardone. This is episode 42 of my evening hour show that's always live, never taped. And I'll see you on Friday. Party on, Wayne!